Welcome back to my channel. And today we're just going to dive right into talking about balance in your plot, creating keeping balance in your plot. So, yesterday I talked about doing a lot of drama and having all the drama in your book and blah, blah, blah. That's all fine and dandy. But just don't have all your drama in the first and second chapter, and then your climax is really no climax, and everybody's just happy to reach the end of your book because it's done. You don't want that. So what you want to do is you want to kind of balance it. If you're gonna have a book that has a lot of drama, then it has to keep that momentum throughout the book, right? To the climax, you hit the climax, and even on the way down from the climax, there's still gonna be mini climaxes, and then the book finally has the last chapter, of course, is be the conclusion, the happy ending, and everybody skips off into the sunset, right? um you want to make sure that it's not I once read a book, and I'm not going to say any names 'cause I'm not trying to shame anyone. um but the book started off great. I mean, it hooked me. That first chapter, I would say, okay, I wouldn't even say the first chapter. I would say the first half of the chapter, excellent. Had my attention. I was hooked. What's going to happen next? Couldn't stop reading. And then it reached a point where the chapter was done, and the next chapter, and the second chapter came. Like the end of the first chapter, comes to the conclusion, and that's cool and everything. And then the next chapter came, and it's like, what happened here? It's almost like if it's not even the same author writing the book. And like most people, you will read the book to the end because it's like you're kind of in a way committed. But then there's a lot of people who would stop, and I only continued reading because um, I was asked to give my opinion. I should never ask me to give an opinion, but yeah, the book was horrible. Like it had so many opportunities to be really, really great, but it's almost like the author chose to not engage. I don't get it. There's all these interesting scenarios that started up and then just fizzled out. You know, even at the end was kind of questionable, and it just didn't make sense. It didn't add up, and then there was I don't know, like it stays in my memory, but not for good reason. It's almost like it's in my memory as what not to do. So don't have your book have all the action in the beginning and nothing in the middle, and the end is like it's literally like the end, like just dig a grave and bury it. You don't want that. So you want to stretch it out. And now I didn't know about these things when I wrote Endurance. I basically just wrote Endurance. And one thing I paid attention to is when I felt bored, I felt like my reader would be bored. And I found out later on that that was very true. So never write when you're bored. What you want to do is, if you find yourself bored when writing, but you're forcing yourself to hit a certain word count for the day or something like that, take a break. Take an inspiration break. So an inspiration break to me, for me, like I said yesterday, is K drama. But it doesn't always have to be K drama. It could be drawing, it could be cleaning, it could be just doing something else that inspires you. Taking a nap. Sometimes you need a nap. Take a nap. You might have a dream. You may dream your characters. Fall asleep thinking about your book and see what comes to mind. What your subconscious comes up with. These are things that will kind of help you with preventing boredom in your book. Because if you're bored, your reader's going to get bored because you're passing that on to them. The characters are going to seem boring. It all comes out. You have to pay attention to yourself and your emotions when you're writing. Um, the other thing is, okay, so some people think of just having like this one big dramatic climax, and then the story, then then it goes, so the story builds up to this climax, and then goes steeples down into it, then it's going back down into the conclusion, right? And that is one method, but I think that method is like kind of played out, and I think that's where your book becomes predictable, because people are already predicting, okay, yeah, we're marching up this mountain to this climax, we're gonna reach the mountaintop, and then we're gonna be good heading back down the mountain. Have little mini climaxes throughout your book. Like I said, never end your chapter uh in a conclusive kind of style. End your chapter with a cliffhanger. Do the conclusion in the middle and start back up the drama again right after that conclusion. Like, you want to keep your book, and that's how you make a page turner. You don't end it where they can put it down and go to sleep for the rest of the night and sleep peacefully, because whatever the drama was happening was concluded. So, because that could lead to, okay, well, you know what, I was gonna read today, but I think I'll read tomorrow. So, or I got other things to do. You want them to kind of have that book on, in their mind. So have them where they're keeping that book on them. So if they're at the doctor's office and they're waiting for their name to be called, they're like, "Ooh, perfect time to read this book." They pull it up on their phone, whatever. That's how you want it. It's not to say that you're trying to dominate somebody's life, but you're trying to make it so that when they have a downtime, they think of your book and they're able to, access it and jump right into it. And even if it's just, 15, 20 minutes that they have, or, an unknown amount of time that they're just waiting for something, let them have your book, let them remember your book, that they're reading your book. Let me finish reading this book. It's a great time waiting for my name to be called. So you gotta keep that in mind. Like, that's the overall goal. So you have to spread out the drama. Make sure that what you're writing, that you're going deep enough to continue the storyline. So sometimes you can hit a wall with a character, like that's all they got, that's all they got to give. Which then you need to really analyze that character. That means your character isn't fully developed. You need to go back and start developing your character better. um I have a character development workbook that works really well for that. So it's just something that you can help you to provoke more thought and make you think deeper about this character that you're creating. And the thing is, I personally think that the more developed your character is, the easier it is to write your book, the better and easier it flows. So, something to consider. So, just to recap, you want to keep your story balanced. You want to end each chapter with a cliffhanger, except for the last chapter. That's your conclusion. Um, you want to. This is how you're going to keep the story moving forward. And if you're bored and you're writing in a bored state of mind, your reader is going to feel it. And the characters are going to seem boring. The characters are going to seem dull, and that's bad. You don't want that. Um, Also, that's what I didn't go over. So you want to have, depending on your genre, if you're writing an action, fast paced story, then that's it. Just burn on the drama and don't stop. Don't give them a chance to breathe, right? Till the end of the book, till they close the book. Or you still want to put little breather spots in there. So what I call a breather spot is, for example, in my book Forbidden, there's a lot of stuff going on, but then there's a few moments where Dakota and Amali have, where they just have like a nice deep discussion. So the discussion is interesting, and the scene is beautiful, the setting is nice, and it gives the reader kind of like a break to think about, see the development of the character, see the whole process, like how the story is developing, everything that's happened up to this point, and what's going on now between the characters. It's just that I call it the breather point, so they could get a chance to kind of like really absorb the story, you know? and then we go back into some action. But that's like a breather point. So you want to have these little spots where the reader can reflect along with the characters, and also just also reflect on the story. And it's not where they want to put the book down because the conversation is so interesting that they want to continue reading, and then they get into the action part. So this is something that's how I create balance in my books. um if you're enjoying what I'm saying, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'm trying to help first time writers, first time authors, anybody who's interested in learning how to self publish and tell fictional stories or even nonfiction stories. I know I talk a lot about fiction, but with nonfiction, it has a lot of the same similar roles. The only thing is that you're kind of you have to follow a certain chain of events because it's a fiction story. Whereas, I mean, it's a nonfiction story. Whereas fiction, you're making this crap up as you go along. Unless you do something like I do, where I do kind of a mix. I do put some nonfiction events, like the book I'm working on now, Rosewood, does have. It starts out with an event that actually did happen, and then it goes into the fictional story. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that this helps, and I look forward to talking with you tomorrow. Happy writing.